They called him the King of Kings. His name echoed through marble halls and wind-swept deserts, carried by the breath of 1,000 servants and feared by empires that dared whisper rebellion. Xerxes I, son of Darius the Great, ruler of the mighty Achaemenid Empire, seemed destined to become a god among mortals. But his end? It was nothing like the legends foretold. It begins not on the battlefield, but in the hushed golden corridors of power. Xerxes inherited an empire stretching from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea, an empire too vast for one man to see, let alone control. And yet he believed he could conquer more. The Greeks, that stubborn, rocky outcrop of city-states who defied his father, humiliated his generals, and burned his pride. Xerxes would not forgive. He would finish what Darius started. So he built a bridge of boats across the Hellespont, whipped the sea when it defied him, and marched with a force so colossal that it drank rivers dry. Greek writers would say his army numbered in the millions. Perhaps a boast, perhaps not. What is certain is that he crushed Leonidas at Thermopylae, set Athens aflame, and watched the Parthenon burn from his throne on a distant hill. But then the tide turned, not just in war, but in fate. At Salamis, his navy was lured into a trap. Themistocles, a cunning Athenian commander, led the Persians into narrow waters where their numbers became a curse. Ships collided, men drowned, and the dream of victory cracked like shattered oars. Xerxes, watching from the shore, saw his pride sink beneath the waves. He returned to Persia, leaving his general Mardonius behind to finish the campaign. He never came back to Greece. Back in Susa, surrounded by silks, gold, and the perfumed haze of his court, Xerxes turned inward. He built. Palaces rose like mirages, Persepolis expanded, monuments engraved with his glory. He declared himself king of the lands, in inscriptions 10 feet high. But something had changed. The conqueror had become the builder. And in the stillness of peace, enemies crept closer, not from abroad, but from within. He had ruled for over 2 decades when whispers began to stir. Whispers of betrayal, of eunuchs scheming in shadows, of sons and generals restless for power. Xerxes had many children, but only one throne. Court politics turned poisonous. Harem intrigues brewed like slow poison. And somewhere in that gilded web, a plot formed. The man who struck the fatal blow wasn't a rival king or a mighty warrior, but his own bodyguard. Artabanus, once entrusted with protecting the king, murdered him in the secrecy of night, some say with the help of a eunuch. The details are hazy, and perhaps that's intentional. History, after all, is often written to protect the guilty and bury the truth. Some sources claim Artabanus framed Darius, Xerxes' son, then murdered him too, trying to claim the throne for himself. But he was outmaneuvered by another prince, Artaxerxes, who avenged his father and had Artabanus executed. In a single turn of the blade, the King of Kings became the victim of a palace coup. No glorious battlefield death, no martyrdom for empire, just a knife in the dark. It's almost poetic. The man who once ruled the greatest empire Earth had seen fell not by spear or storm, but by trust misplaced. In the end, it wasn't Sparta or Athens that brought him down. It was a man he saw every day. And maybe that's the true tragedy of power, that those closest to your throne are often the ones who covet it most. Xerxes' monuments still stand. His name still echoes in the ruins of Persepolis. But his real story is a warning that no matter how vast your empire, how divine your title, you are never beyond betrayal. Not even the King of Kings,